All right. We are live. By the way, people have takes on officiating.
I do. Actually, I got a really nice Instagram message
Okay.
from Kyle, one of our Kyles.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know if this is the same guy that you had on the radio, but from that appearance, I got into high school officiating.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Don't tell life coach that.
I mean, he's going to make us do a whole 30 for 30 about Kyle now, but I did think it was very cool.
No, but
especially in light of, how we never had any ideas and we never had any kind of impact on it.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. We've never had any good ideas whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, was that your burner account for the guy from Hot Ones not being a good interviewer on Reddit?
You sent that to me and I was like,
I
my
saw
second
that.
burner account has been exposed.
I saw that and I just thought to myself, like, is Giglio on a rampage on Reddit these days?
One of the most irrationally angry times I've ever been. Particularly in a meeting setting.
Yeah, well, you hate meetings to begin with.
No, but this one really did trigger me.
Well, what I always love in those situations.
Talk about how hot these wings, hey man, these wings are super hot. It was like Chris Farley with Paul McCartney. No. Oh my God, Drew Barrymore, you're the best.
What I always love in those situations, in any one of those types of meetings back in the day, not now you're dusting off some radio scars. It was the it's like when you walked in the other day and you were like, Pablo Torre has 12 producers.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, dude, 12. So that's what cracked me up about the Hot Ones guy. It's like, oh, he's this, it's like that dude's got like a whole team of people doing research for him. You think John Oliver's out there doing all that by himself? And I love John Oliver. Don't get me wrong. He's got an entire writer's room helping him out, man. Lawyers. Yeah. He does it once a week. So I always thought that was kind of funny from back in the day. Anyway,
we got a lot to get into because my new favorite team has already let me down.
Okay, we'll do that. Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. But on Thursdays, we're just past 2:00. We're live on YouTube. It's all thanks to the Butcher's Market. They sponsor OG Live, so go support them. Go to thebutchersmarkets.com. Better yet, go to their various locations across the Triangle and in Wilmington. You're looking for, I think the rain's finally passed us. You're looking for something to do this weekend, grill out. Hey, go to the Butcher's Market. Hopefully we will not have a game 6 to worry about on Saturday. So you don't have to worry about the tailgating that night. You can just be chilling at home. That'd be nice.
I'll make sure I bet on the Capitals tonight. Let's do that. We'll try to put the whammo on this thing.
That makes sense. Stephen already in the YouTube comments. Joe, are we getting a way too early week-by-week breakdown of the Panthers schedule? Football.
Well, at least we know what week we get to say to our family and our loved ones.
That's true.
Babe, love you, mean it.
Let's get the antiquing done now.
But
because once the preseason hits, once that Hall of Fame game hits, you ain't seeing me.
You'll never see me again.
I did not jot down the schedule release to talk about.
No, I've completely blocked all of that out. I blame you for this.
What do you mean?
Well, back in the day when I was covering things, I would get super jazzed up. Like this guy, who's not excited by the schedule release? Like, what are you talking? Like, I remember vividly you being on radio and shitting on the schedule release, and I would be like, why doesn't he care? I don't understand. Like, how is this not a thing in his realm? And then I realized it mattered to me,
to you,
and Ethan and Steve Young because we had to make travel plans.
Yeah. And then you realize
for everyone else, it was like, oh, we're playing Notre Dame this year. Cool.
How this is where we're at with the schedule release and how little it matters. And the only reason why they embargo these things now is because it's become a
they've turned it into a TV show too.
It's not just a TV show, but what it's really morphed into a social media manager's Super Bowl.
Yes.
In the NFL, everybody has to have a Super Bowl. The draft in its own way is a Super Bowl for a city. Like Green Bay absolutely poured it out, man. DC, they're expecting 1 million people to show up on the mall for the draft and all that kind of stuff. I'm not bringing it up as a knock. You got the underwear Olympics in the
combine
for the combine. So there's all these things that the NFL has done an excellent job of using as these markers to get you closer to the actual football season. So you're never forgetting about the football season. I'm not bringing this up as a knock. I will reiterate, this is very smart PR branding by the NFL. But we have gotten to the point where the whole purpose of the NFL schedule release is to allow for these creative teams within the organizations to flex. So we had like 2 teams doing Minecraft-esque videos to do the schedule release with all sorts of little Easter eggs. I think it was the Chargers who did a Minecraft release that featured Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz fighting in the background as little Minecraft characters, which is pretty funny.
Nice.
The Atlanta Falcons decided to throw shade at Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson. They did a Mario Kart-esque reveal.
Okay.
And, they were going around the little course. They were throwing stuff at their opponents. And at one point, they drove past these 2 characters on the beach, on one of the beach courses. And it happened to be
They were
Jordan.
in the pose.
They were in the pose. And it was like, we're not talking about this. That was the little sign and whatnot. So I thought it was, it's clever. I think the Panthers only got, 1 primetime game? 1?
You might as well be quizzing me on what happened in the Chinese, labor markets yesterday. I have not a single clue. Do not have an NFL team. I know. Thankfully, someone had tweeted out Christmas to let us know there will be Christmas in 2025. So thankfully, I knew that. That is the only information I gleaned from this entire schedule release. When we come back, Troy Aikman will join us to break down the first 5 games on Monday Night Football and why the Dallas Cowboys could be looking for a new coach right after this.
Well, since it's been a week of conspiracy theories, did you enjoy the latest one? Because we had our Dallas Mavericks, NBA, it's rigged. Look at the Mavericks losing a generational talent only for them to get the number 1 pick.
Yep.
Another white generational talent, because apparently that's what you need in Dallas. I mean, like that. There's so much telling on yourself about that. Like, yes, we got another white guy. Or the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are on primetime a bunch.
And don't have
including the Jets. I think they opened up the season against the Jets in primetime, if I'm not mistaken, if I looked at the schedule correctly.
Okay.
And everybody's convinced. Does the NFL know something about Aaron Rodgers' future landing spot that we don't? Now that is a conspiracy theory. I like that. That's the good stuff.
I was sent one tidbit about the Panthers that I did find at least interesting.
Okay. Now, while you're looking that up from Bennett, I'd respect any team who just tweeted out their schedule without video. Otherwise, it's a competition for who is more online. Yes, no, you understand your audience with those schedule releases. It's all about winning the internet. Y'all know me in 2025. I'm not quite sure what the value is of winning the internet is anymore, especially when it's all AI slop. But maybe that's what they need to do next. We need to have, I don't know, maybe the Panthers should come out with an AI-only generated and nothing but Adobe Firefly products that get put out there. Anyway,
Dimitri and Lauren will really enjoy this. This is from Carson Carell. You ready for this? The Panthers have opened up the season with the Jaguars twice, including in 2003 and 2015. Now, if you want to take that another step, in 2002, Ohio State won the national championship.
Okay.
The Panthers finished with a losing record. In 2003, the Panthers opened with the Jaguars. The Panthers go to the Super Bowl. In 2014, Ohio State wins the national championship.
I see what you're doing.
The Panthers finished with a losing record. 2015, the Panthers open the season with the Jaguars. The Panthers go to the Super Bowl. 2024, Ohio State wins the national championship. The Panthers finish with a losing record. 2025, the Panthers open the season with the Jaguars. Who am I to argue with this astronomical symmetry?
That is some galaxy brain.
I am not going to argue with that. In fact, there's probably $5 out there somewhere.
Oh yeah,
to put on the Panthers to win the NFC.
I'll put it down. From James. The THC infused drink sold at the butcher's markets hit different. Makes the food you pick up even better. There's call, a combo. That is a hell of a combo. I like that. We're going to talk to Luke DeCock of the News and Observer here in a little bit about the ACC spring meetings. They're preaching peace in our time, except not buying the kumbaya, man, especially with what's going on with the college football playoff. Barry Fluga, your former colleague at the News and Observer, now columnist with the Washington Post. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour as we discuss the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals Game 5 tonight. I'm a little upset.
Can we get Ryan Gerard, Tar Heel for life, back on the program?
That's our guy, right?
Because apparently when you come on our show, you're going to be leading at a major.
Yeah.
After 18 holes. Ryan Gerard, Tar Heel, and from Raleigh, by the way. 7 under right now down at Quail Hollow with a 3-shot lead at the PGA. That's wild. That's wild.
About that, as it relates to the PGA, I thought this would be an interesting entry point on that conversation.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
So this came to us from an 828 number yesterday. The sports phone brought to you by Nature's Relief. Speaking of those THC-infused drinks, you can get a lot of THC-infused items at Nature's Relief. Check them out online at naturesreliefhempstore.com. That's RELEAF hempstore.com.
Hey, Joe's. Calling in on my drive down to Quail Hollow for Wednesday practice round of the PGA Championship. Excited for that, real excited. Listen, I've been seeing a lot of discourse this week about the value of the majors in golf. You know, where do we rank them in terms of prestige? How valuable actually is a PGA championship? Especially, I've seen a lot of people really hating on Quail Hollow this week. You know, like how valuable is a PGA championship when it's at a course that's regularly played on tour? And of course, you know, I kind of fall in the camp of PGA championship is the 4th major. It doesn't really, you know, like I definitely would want any of the other 3 before that one. But I would even go as far as to say, well, I know Giglio loves the comp. So I'd like to know, assuming you have one other major. So let's say you're a PGA Tour player and you've already got one. So that we're not talking about getting your first major on paper here. You already have one major. Giglio, what would you comp in exchange for a PGA championship? How many wins on tour, whatever it may be? My answer, I would even go so far as to say, give me a hole-in-one on 17 at TPC Sawgrass or a hole-in-one on 16 at Scottsdale, the waste management course. Hole-in-one on either of those iconic holes. As long as I have one other major, I'm taking that over a PGA championship. Thanks, guys.
That's crazy talk.
Thoughts, Joe?
A major is a major. I know what you're saying, that it's a regular tour stop at Quail Hollow down in Charlotte, but you got to remember the players like regularly vote Quail Hollow as one of their favorite hospitality sites.
Right.
That the course goes out of their way to take care of them. So no, man, a major is a major. Like a hole, anybody can hit a hole in one.
Yeah.
Not anybody can win a major. So
yeah, however you want to value them.
Plus, it's playing a lot tougher today than I think any of them expected.
Mm-hmm.
The top 3 guys today really labored through this thing, and it's a course set up for their success. So
here's what I found funny. The same caller called back later in the day.
Okay.
They went out to the practice round, shitting on Quail Hollow. Spoiler alert.
I'm calling to admit some wrong and amend my statement just a bit. So had a great day. Quail Hollow is a great course. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very fan-friendly. I must admit, some of my hatred for the PGA Championship and my attempts to put it down, I think, were driven by how much I dislike Justin Thomas and Brooks Koepka and me attaching that to them. Maybe if, you know, my boy Scotty had a couple of PGAs, I wouldn't have been hating so much. So I will walk my statement back a little bit.
Darn it, Charlotte made me like you. Dang it, Charlotte, why do you do this to me?
Housekeeping.
Hey, how do you not like JT? Like, you're like the only one who, I mean, yeah, Koepka's got a little bit of aloofness to him.
A little bit.
JT,
a little
man,
bit.
come on.
A little bit. A little bit of housekeeping is brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Rialto is going to be showing Game 5 tonight between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. I'm going to drop on by, check that out before we do our OG After Dark, which is brought to you by Bloomin' Blinds. So check out Bloomin' Blinds, who's being the corporate champion during this Stanley Cup playoff run. If you enjoy the After Dark, go support them. 919-980-9815. Again, that's 919-980-9815. So the Rialto is also going to be the home of the Sports Podcast Festival. Tickets are on sale right now. It'll feature us, Split Zone Duo, and Big Screen Sports. Home Field's going to be a part of that. We got a really cool shirt, long sleeve shirt that you can buy with your ticket in advance, make it super easy for you. So go to therealtor.com right now and get those tickets as well. Speaking of t-shirts, you go to breakingtea.com/OG and get in on the OG collection. Wonderful collection of shirts. Speaking of golf, you're in the mood for golf, hoodies and shirts with the Ovies and Giglio Golf Classic, if you will. And of course, Joe Giglio's favorite, the Cougar. Joe loves a Cougar. OG podcast. Go to breakingtea.com/OG. Breeze through, one of our corporate champions, and will be your main source to pick up OG Light when it's canned and released next week. Do you want to go to the canning straight off the line on Tuesday, Joe?
Yeah.
We could do that. You can drink straight from the line.
Really?
Yeah. You want to do it? Tuesday.
I gotta get back on the horse for that, but yeah.
Okay, we'll make that happen. In the meantime, you can go to Breeze Through, get all your tailgating needs as the playoffs roll on, and it'll be your home for OG Light along with some other spots. I went to Longleaf for lunch today. I know you were there too. You'll be able to get OG Light at Longleaf, which is very, very cool. In the meantime, think about grabbing lunch, dinner, and brunch. Don't forget about brunch. Brunch at Longleaf is on another level. The breakfast burrito with the brisket and the French fries in it is top notch. So go to Longleaf Swine to find out more. Also, Shady's will have OG Light. Shady's and Garner. The parent company, Whitaker and Hamer. That's who you got to contact, though. WH.lawyer, attorneys and counselors at law. They can help you out with small legal needs, personal legal needs, locations all across the Triangle and North Carolina. So go check them out. WH.lawyer. And we're going to talk a little ACC with Luke Takaka, the News and Observer, here momentarily. Anytime we talk about the ACC, it's brought to you by our friends at Keller Williams Commercial, the Donnelly team. Give them a call at 919-616-8681. TriangleNCCommercial.com is the website. Warehouse space, retail space, whatever those commercial real estate needs are, the Donnelly team, Brian and Julie, they're going to help you out. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is Luke Takaka of the News and Observer. He is back from Amelia Island. He has a glow about him because he has been using the sea salt scrub for days, multiple days. How are those hands, Luke?
They're soft. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, glowing, got a good tan, spent a lot of time in air-conditioned, freezing hallways. Interesting. I just want to point out on the PGA, since we are live, it's not just Ryan Gerard, as impressive as his 17 holes so far have been. Alex Smalley from Wake Forest grew up playing at the Heritage, went to Duke. He's T2. Our old friend Akshay Bhatia is T15. Ben Griffin, Chapel Hill, UNC, T22. It's almost like these guys have played there before.
Oh, yeah.
A couple times. So, yeah, it's a good day for Triangle Golf in the first half of the first round of the PGA. So, but I know that's not what we're here to talk about.
No, actually kind of is. Is that the success Jim Phillips has been just striving for the ACC?
Greatness.
Accomplished greatness.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you look at Gerard and Griffin. I mean, that's going to be some success initiative payments for UNC. Alex Smalley gets some success initiative money for Duke. Yeah, no, it's a huge day for those schools. They're counting their money because that's really where you win is money.
So you were in Amelia Island for the ACC meetings. They were kind of preaching relative peace in our time because they're not in the middle of lawsuits with Clemson and Florida State. Yet at the same time, they're talking about striving and trying to accomplish greatness and tweaking things to get more teams in the NCAA tournament. There's this other thing going on that can absolutely obliterate the ACC, which is the juxtaposition of relative peace to a lot of uncertainty. And that is the college football playoff. Bill Belichick was the shiny object in the room. 18 conference games in basketball versus 20, another shiny object. It's entirely possible if the college football playoff jumps to 16 teams. We're looking at 4-4-2-2-1. No, not the sports phone. We're talking about the new format where the SEC and the Big Ten would get 4 apiece, automatic qualifiers, and the ACC and the Big 12 would get 2 automatic qualifiers, the one being Notre Dame. I got to imagine that a single coach that you came across in Amelia Island is pleased with that proposal.
No, I don't think the ADs are. And I think when it comes to it, I don't think the presidents will be. I had a long talk about this with Dave Dorn and for once, Dave and I are totally in alignment on something. It's why are you playing the games if you're just going to decide that Ohio State is going before the season starts? And as I wrote, the ACC could get into a position where it has 4 10-win teams that all beat each other. and they lose out on spots to a 7-5 Mississippi State team and an 8-4 Iowa team that didn't play anybody. I mean, it's a terrible idea. It's a huge power play by Sankey and Petiti. They feel like they control the purse strings. They're going to control who's in. If I'm Jim Phillips, and Phillips was very, very careful not to say anything about this specific subject, talking about respecting the process, and we've had great conversations. He really does not want to antagonize because he is playing a weak hand here. We all know that.
Yeah.
But to me, if you agree to something like that, given the importance of college football in today's college sports economy, you're basically consigning yourself to also ran status for all time. And I just, if that's the best deal, Doran's point was we should have at least 3. My point, and he was saying if we're going to do this, we should have at least 3. Yeah. My point and his point as well was, why would we even do this? What's the point of even playing the season if we're just going to decide who gets in at the start? And to a certain extent, that's what happened with Florida State. It's like, oh, your quarterback got hurt. You were undefeated. None of that mattered. See ya. Bye. Thanks, Boo Corrigan, for selling out your league. The rest of it is a political and financial negotiation to try to avoid a situation where, certain conferences are allocated half the field no matter how their teams do. I don't know in the long term if Sankey and Petiti really have the power to push that through. But there's no question that despite their public sort of disputes, disavowals, that is the goal for those two conferences. And I think you have to, if you're the ACC, and certainly I came away with this feeling from a couple conversations, it's not what's the best deal we can cut. Like, is that 3 automatic qualifiers? Is it 2? It's how do we stop this? Because if we ever get football in shape and we're in a system like that, we're going to be screwed. And they would be. To which, like, the through line of this entire meeting, and we can joke about, I made the same joke, Jim Phillips has returned from Munich, securing peace in our time. It really is a different sort of circumstance when everybody's not suing each other and people aren't having secret meetings to talk about breaking away. As far as I know, and maybe, someone will have some big behind the scenes piece about how that was happening again. The conversations that I heard that people were talking about were, we've got this settled. We've got this new succession initiative. So nobody's complaining about money. Florida State through 3 days without exploding about something or other. It's how do we become more competitive? Because this is the ACC's longest championship drought in terms of football and men's basketball since the mid 90s, between Carolina's title in 93 and Florida State in whatever year that was, 99, if I remember correctly. And if Clemson or whoever doesn't win ACC football this year, it becomes the longest drought since 83 to 90, which was obviously state basketball, Georgia Tech football. They've got to get their operation in order. And so the conversation was sort of, yes, we have to get better. Everybody knows that. You can't keep, losing bad non-conference games. But what can we do to make ourselves more competitive? So that's why you go from 20 to 18 games. That was settled before Amelia Island. But a lot of the discussion among basketball coaches was, how best do we all collectively use these 2 non-conference games? A lot of talk about best practices. Will Wade spoke up a lot, talking about what he learned at McNeese State, trying to game the system. And then in football, it was, how do we fight this? Because we can't be consigned to permanent second-class status.
What is the actual procedure, though, Luke? It sounds like the SEC and the Big Ten are well within their rights to make the rules here.
I mean, that's the politics of college sports, right? But in theory, the conferences are all equal partners in the CFP. There are political things you can do. There are fights you can do. I mean, this is why lawyers get the big bucks, to find ways to negotiate things like this. I think the ACC's best card to play, and this extends to the Big 12 as well, is people aren't going to be as interested if the best teams aren't in it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That gets us to the brands conversation, which I think is where you're going.
Well, to Giglio's point, to be clear, the way they structured the college football playoff after these initial years is that the Big Ten and the SEC can unilaterally decide how they want to go about this. That's the power that these schools, the ACC, the Big 12, the Group of Five, Notre Dame, gave to those 2 conferences. So theoretically, they can say, yeah, we've heard your concerns, but we're still going to go 4-4, 2-2, 2-2-1, right? For all this kind of stuff. So I feel like the only real card they have is a public relations push to say, hey, man, these guys are living off the past. These guys, now that everything is equal with the house settlement and you actually have salaries essentially, everything's a little bit more on the equal playing field. And you can look at previous success of the SEC not getting through and winning these things. And now they're trying to control that. The only way they can do it is through PR. And the only way
there's other things. You got to remember, it's not just PR. There are other levers to pull here.
What are those
NCAA reorganization. This is not in a vacuum, right?
Okay.
The power conference commissioners have to work together on a lot. They had to all agree on the House settlement. They're all going to have to agree on NCAA reorganization. So if Sankey wants to go say, we're going to do this, and if you don't like it, go screw, well, they can make his life difficult in a whole lot of other ways. So all these pieces are interconnected. There's not just sort of unilateral power to do certain things and not face consequences for it. Do I agree that if I'm Jim Phillips, I want to be in that meeting saying this is unacceptable, like publicly come out of that saying automatic qualifiers are unacceptable and not just fold and try to make the best deal and not play nice? I would not be playing nice. I'd be saying, what have you guys done that gives, is worth doing this? You're diluting the entire point of a championship by turning it into the whatever at Atlanta. What's the Atlantis thing?
Oh, the battle for Atlanta.
Battle for Atlanta. Why not play the CFP in a hotel ballroom at Christmas? Like, it's just, you can't. There's a certain level of legitimacy that still has to be attached to this as a fig leaf, if nothing else. And basically just saying, well, Ohio State gets in even if they go 7-5 is not the way to do that.
We played your clip from Belichick and the Bird Sanctuary. What did you think of Dollar Bill and his reboot here, Bill 2.0 already?
Yeah, that's where Augusta gets its bird sounds, I think, during the Masters.
Hold on. If we're gonna do this,
I cannot imagine having the opportunity 5 days a week to watch what is happening with Bill Belichick.
Still working on our Young and the Restless, though. That'll be out next week. But anyway, you saw Bill. Bill did the thing.
It's funny. The takeaway I had was with everything that's gone on over the last 2 months and how infrequently he's been available to the media. This is a guy who actually hasn't had the chance to talk football at all. Mm-hmm. And even his ESPN interview, which went off the rails a little bit, it was kind of he was talking football. And then when the questions started to get awkward, and believe me, that was not the topic there. They were horribly posed questions that made it almost impossible to understand both the question and then what Belichick was actually answering in terms of the Jordan Hudson portion of the interview. Belichick actually relaxed and was talking pretty freely about, it was the NNO had a couple minutes with them. WRL had a couple minutes with them. When it was over, we were all kind of standing around and he didn't go back inside right away. Yeah. He wanted to talk about how they were dealing with House and, they didn't want to cut a bunch of kids in August and what they liked about Gio Lopez and things like that. Like, those are the kind of conversations we have with Manny Diaz or Dave Dorn after a press conference occasionally, not always, but, what do you think of this? Or, just that sort of opportunity to chat informally. He hasn't had any of that, and that's been his choice.
That's his, by the way, you don't give him a pass on that. He's had opportunities to do that kind of stuff, and he refused to do it.
100% been his choice.
Okay.
But now he has a new PR guy who they brought in from the Bears. And certainly if you've worked for the Bears, you know how to handle a mess.
They got a new one.
Well, what? That's a cheap shot?
What? No, I'm just saying the Bears have Caleb Williams with this Seth Wickersham.
Today. It never stops. They got a Pope and they can't even do anything right. So, I think there was certainly an element of, Bill, if you're coaching in college, I think it's true even in the NFL. Yeah. If you're coaching in college, you got to meet these guys and girls, whatever, a little bit halfway and be human with them. You can't just walk around as the imperious emperor and his, chariot. So I think there was certainly an awakening maybe on his part that he's got to be a little more engaged. And who knows, maybe he walked around the Ritz and saw every coach and every AD stopping to talk to the people, the national people, the people from their market, having formal conversations, informal conversations. Maybe
I should do that.
Well, maybe you sort of see it and you're like, I guess that's part of the job. Or we didn't do that in the NFL, but that's part of doing it here. So, I don't think the conversation I had with him was particularly, earth shattering. I mean, I think his admission that he really has no idea how good his team is, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Is interesting. There wasn't a lot of posturing there. We're going to be great. We bubble. We got better and we'll find out what that means in August. And I thought that was fair. And then, the ESPN had sort of some Jordan questions that were as we said, were a little awkward in their
Yeah,
phrasing.
they had to be shoehorned in there. And also, like, I'm gonna give the person on Sports Center, the ESPN, and the person on Sport, I'm forgetting who it was, a little bit of a pass, because I got to imagine that there was a tight window and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it is what it is. We're live right now on YouTube, so let's just do this because we can. Let's go quad box. Let's go columnist versus columnist here.
Whoa.
Use an Observer columnist, Washington Post columnist, former NNO colleagues, Barry's
Now rivals.
Now rivals with the Caps and the Canes. Hey, look, I think all four of us can agree, though, you don't want to be the Maple Leafs, right? I mean, say what you want about being down 3-1, Barry. At least they didn't go full Leafs until last night.
Full Leafs is a bad look right now. And in that market, I mean, it's not, with all due respect to the excellent hockey markets of the Triangle and the nation's capital, it's a little bit different meal up there at this point.
Not a single fan, no matter how bad it got here with the Hurricanes, at no point would anybody ever throw a jersey onto the ice because they're too expensive.
Correct, for sure. Yeah, what a disaster.
Total disaster. All right. Lineup changes, any of that stuff going to matter, Barry? They can't keep up.
I mean, I think you do that because it's desperate times and desperate measures. It's not really that radical. Beauvillier going to the first line, he had played really well there. And the first line it's always Ovechkin's line here, even though the Pierre-Luc Dubois line is by minutes and matchups, the top line. But Strome and Ovechkin have played well with Beauvillier. They got a lot of production in the Montreal series there. Protas goes back to the Dubois line. And then the more interesting thing is just canning Lars Eller, the veteran third line center, and moving Connor McMichael to the third line center. He played the wing all year. They need production. They needed to mix it up. They've gotten off to really good starts the last two games and have no goals to show for it. They got to get an early one past Anderson and have Thompson basically outplay Anderson, which he hasn't done to this point.
Will any of this get our guy, poor Alex Ovechkin, going, Barry?
I mean, it's such a tough question because go back 8 years, I've probably said it looks like it's done. He's done. And then, he scored 44 goals and missed 16 games with a broken leg this year. And also, the power play is always there for him. Now, he had a bunch of even strength goals this year, and that's not because he's a great stick handler, but because he got to the difficult areas in front of the net and created offense and got tip-ins. And I mean, he said it the other night, they have not pounced on a rebound. Not that Anderson has allowed a lot of rebounds, but the few that have gotten out there, there's been no Capitals sweater, within shouting distance of it. So they've got to get a little grimy and get one early. And that, guarantees nothing. They can win tonight and could go back to Raleigh and lose pretty cleanly in game 6. So scratching and clawing for their lives at this point. I think the lineup changes are an indication of that.
Luke, you got anything before we say goodbye to you?
No, I stand by what I said after game 3, which was when you play as well as the Capitals played in the first period and you don't score and then you lose 4-0, it just breaks you. And we've seen that and pretty much every year the Hurricanes have been in the playoffs at some point, that dynamic of we should have been up 2-0 and we weren't, and then we got smoked. And then game 4 with the other scenario we talked about, there's going to be a game where the Capitals get 5 power plays and score on 3 of them. To me, that was game 4. Mm-hmm. They get a 2-man advantage. They had chances and they couldn't get through. So based on my experience watching the Hurricanes over the years, I see a lot of similarities between sort of the Caps down 3-1 and the Hurricanes down 3-0 to Florida, or the Hurricanes, down 3-1 to the Rangers. Just those series where you weren't rewarded and the mountain gets bigger and bigger, and now you're even further down it and nothing's going right. So, yeah, I mean, this could still be the game where the Capitals get 4 power plays and score on 3 of them. But to me, that series was over about the second intermission of game 3, and I really haven't seen anything since to dissuade me from that position.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight. Luke, you'll join us for the OG After Dark immediately following the game. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right. See you guys.
Barry's going to stay with us here for a second. I was reading your column this morning about, I guess, all of DC being underwater in terms of sports fandom. Although, it's not like Charlotte. At least you have an owner for your football team that people seem to be excited about, as opposed to what's going on in Charlotte with David Tepper. So you got that going for you.
And you have a quarterback that franchise. It's amazing the pivot that franchise has made, and the difference it makes in the feeling in town. And I even put it in the column, like, when does minicamp start? Is like,
Right.
that used to be something to dread because there was no possibility of anything positive happening. And now, like, the schedule was unveiled last night, and they've got 10 games that start at 4:25 or later because they are the sexy team that you put in primetime now, which is
Yeah.
like not something we're familiar with here. So, and you're right, the owner makes all that possible, but so does the quarterback. And, that they have stability in two positions that they were inherently unstable at for decades, and that changes everything.
It's interesting you bring it up in terms of not what we were expecting. And you alluded to this in the column, or you referenced this in the column related to playoff experience. Here we are with the Carolina Hurricanes, 7 years of Rod Brind'Amour, 7 playoff appearances. Core group has been through this. Yes, some injuries, but for the most part, when you look at their roster and you look at the playoff experience, it's there. Meanwhile, we get focused on the top end guys for the Washington Capitals. But after that, it's a very inexperienced group, in all these years, from where they were in 2019 to where they are today, not what you probably would have thought when we were talking about the trajectories of these two franchises.
No, and it's funny too, like, this year was really supposed to be a bridge year for the Caps, and there was always, the record was always out there for Ovechkin. What would the pursuit look like? I honestly thought it was going to be like him kind of being dragged to it over the final 2 years of his contract. He needed 42 goals this year to break the record. As a 39-year-old, like, I was like, how about 24 this year and 20 next year, and like, that's done, and then we move past this era and into whatever is next. And so, in a weird way, like, yeah, did they have the better record than the Canes and are the higher seed? Sure, but this was all kind of some sort of unexpected because they did this major roster overhaul and pretty much nailed everything on their board last summer that got them the top seed in the East and kind of pushed Ovechkin past the mark. But now it feels like they aren't as good as the top teams in the East or the West in a 7-game series. And whatever that era, the handoff, the torch handing off, is kind of in midstream right now. And even that includes like John Carlson, who has played whatever it is, 1,100 games for them and is so slow right now. He's 36 and it looks like he just kind of fell off a cliff. Like, the Canes are faster, more experienced, but not like showing age. Whereas the Caps top guys, Wilson exception, because he's played very well, but Ovechkin and Carlson certainly seem older, and Eller, who was also from the Cup team, was just benched. So different stages in their development, I would say.
Barry, before you were in DC, you were here, so you understand the Hurricanes are the one galvanizing force in the triangle.
Right.
And when these fan bases come together, they like to lock on to one thing that they can all hate too. And that happens to be Tom Wilson. So this is your chance to, as now the voice there in DC, to explain to people that Tom Wilson donates plasma in his downtime and helps kittens that need to be resuscitated from the womb, and also maybe cures cancer on the side.
So I could go on about Tom's charity work, which is deep, but I would say this, and Spencer Carberry said this in the Montreal series, which he turned around with a major legal hit in the neutral zone that caused a turnover that led to a tie-breaking goal that pushed them to a Game 4 win and put them up 3-1. Like, that was him taking control of the game. Spencer Carberry, the coach, said, I think the next day, I asked him about all the hatred the guy gets, and it is universal. It's not just in Raleigh. It's certainly in Pittsburgh, but elsewhere as well. That, like, he is one of those guys that 31 markets hate, but 31 markets would love to have on your team, because I think he scored 34 goals this year. It was definitely 30 plus. I might be off by 1 or 2. He plays on the penalty kill. He's on the ice at the end of the game, whether it's 6-on-5 or 5-on-6. He is a unique guy because he's so big and fast and has a little bit of a handle, that I have to believe that if the Capitals were terrible next year and the Canes were looking for an addition and all of a sudden Tom Wilson was available at the deadline, like, there'd be a lot of number 43 Canes jerseys in the crowd pretty quick because when he's on the team that you pay attention to, or in the case of this fan base that you're a fan of, like, you love the guy.
Yeah, you got to be good to balance out the antics that come along with it.
But in fairness, he scored his career best 33 goals this year.
Yeah,
he was a big part of their success this year, and it was.
But he's also
Carberry's done a great job this year with the Capitals, as Barry said, ahead of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
This is like one of those classic examples. I just feel like the Capitals since 18 are just house money, right? Like they finally won the cup. Ovechkin gets to put his name on the cup. You have this unbelievable chase this year where he does it not only at probably ahead of schedule, but in a shortened, season because of the injury. The team has success. Barry, you and I talked when you were here in April, and I said, this could have been one of those years where, he's dragging the carcass of a last place team, and the only thing anyone's talking about is he going to score a goal tonight? I mean, this thing had a best case scenario for them, and they even won a playoff series too. I mean, unlike the Leafs, who are going to have serious questions about their tortured existence after they lose to Florida, I think Washington loses tonight and goes, you know what? That was a pretty fucking good year. Not bad.
So the only pushback I would give you is that since the Cup, they had not won a series until they beat Montreal, and that was frustrating. And the other small pushback is there are people, hardcore Caps people, that are like, yeah, they won the Cup in 18, but this dude has not been past the second round in any other time. Like a trip to the conference finals would matter. Now, can you acknowledge that and acknowledge that this was a little bit ahead of schedule and the front office hit on a bunch of things, and they've got some good long-term prospects because Ryan Leonard's going to be a player. They've locked up Chikrin, who's not having a particularly good season. I mean, I'm sorry, series, but is a good piece for the future. They've got both goalies locked up. And I think they have the perfect bridge coach who's been able to reach the veterans, but also is really, really into player development. Like, you can see a place where they're good going forward, whether they win or lose tonight, whether they win or lose this series. I do think it's not a noose around Ovechkin's neck because he did win it all, and that matters more than anything.
Yeah.
But the overall postseason success is, one trip to the conference finals and one trip to the Stanley Cup finals where you did win. That leaves some people grasping. The last thing you said about dragging the carcass, like, that's what I expected it to look like I said before. And if you take a look at Sidney Crosby, Ovechkin's forever rival, because they were rookies the same year and they had to go through each other in the playoffs for 4 consecutive years. Sid has more cups, but he's the one being dragged to the finish now. And it's really interesting that this front office was able to thread the needle, make the trades, and make the signings, and draft and develop in a way that allowed Ovechkin to at least be thinking about deep postseason runs while Sid's playing golf on May 1st.
So, and it's interesting. Joe brings up Tom Wilson being the thing that folks are latching onto. I actually think it's a more existential conversation that Canes fans are latching onto, because you just mentioned that the Washington Capitals haven't made it out of the second round other than that Cup year, right? And it's looking very much like they're going to not get past the second round again. And yet it's not a consistent talking point on a broadcast like it is for the Carolina Hurricanes, who haven't won a game in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's like, well, at least they've gotten there, unlike the Capitals outside their Cup year. And then you look at what happened in Toronto last night, and we can tell, well, the reason why people don't talk about the Carolina Hurricanes is because of top-end talent. I mean, however you want to sprinkle the conversation. Well, I mean, I saw some top-end talent say, fuck this, in the middle of a game. So which one is it? And then, of course, it's not an exciting brand. I fell asleep during a 0-0, a scoreless regulation game that ends up with a triangle connection at the end with Captain's Kid getting the game winner, right? So, I mean, didn't you see Captain's Kid running around in the locker room back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, I mean, I know you two did. So, these are all things that I'm using as examples of it's a but. So say what you want about the Carolina Hurricanes and their style. I mean, I don't know about you, but if, much like Tom Wilson, you'd love him if you had him. I would say the same thing about the Carolina Hurricanes. Well, you'd love that system too if it's getting to the playoffs every year.
It's like, how many conversations do you have about this with like Tony Bennett Virginia fans, right? Like it's a similar thing. Like if it produces wins, then that is a beautiful system if you're the ones watching it. Now Bennett had a lot of probably really ugly 41-39 losses that are not great.
They would win in the regular season at the ACC, right?
Yeah.
And then they won a title.
I'm not even saying the Canes are as ugly as the bad version of Bennett Virginia basketball. It's not, but it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? Like it's exciting, and the way they won the clincher of the last series, coming back from 3, like how great is that building in that moment? Like that, those are the stuff that matters to fans, right? Like how did it feel when you were there and when you were watching, and not like necessarily the visuals of it, but the the experience, the overall experience. And if that experience gets you to the Eastern Conference Finals or beyond, like that's great.
Sounds an awful lot like a who would you rather be conversation.
Yeah, your favorite. Your favorite.
Barry's alma mater. I don't know. Those 2 losses, Barry. I don't know.
Pretty bad.
Needed that payoff this year.
That's right.
Hey,
needed that payoff this year.
Barry,
1,000%. I mean, that's just close that one out, and
right. Then it's like, hey, fuck you. I don't care. We have a title.
Right.
Right.
So exactly. What? You beat us there. Oh, State, you beat us. Cool. Here's our title.
We're
exactly.
Good.
They don't have
it. Doesn't matter.
I know.
Right.
Barry, appreciate the time as always. We'll see what happens tonight. Maybe we'll see you on Saturday for a game 6.
I hope not.
Who knows? Crazier things have happened. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Take it easy. Gary Saluga, columnist for the Washington Post, joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. Joe, did you know you could sell your car to Heister?
I do. I also got new tires from our friends at Heister and Fuquay just yesterday.
Very nice. Very nice. Just something to let you all know. Big thanks to Miller Lending for being a corporate champion. You can check out millerlending.com/the OG. That's our landing page. You can call them directly at 919-447-3377. With Miller Lending, you are not paying closing costs for that refinance or the home origination. You're going to, finance a new purchase or things like that. The reason why this is crucial is because the whole concept of getting a lower rate by paying closing costs is a hedge. You're essentially saying you're going to keep this rate for minimum 8 years. That's typically what it takes to break even on those closing costs. Y'all, that math ain't mathing. All sorts of reasons why you would want to refinance like Joe did to consolidate debt. You might find yourself in that same situation. So call them directly at 919-447-3377. We're sitting here talking about saving money. Well, another way to do that is with your insurance for your house. Maybe you think you've got a good rate. Nothing wrong with starting a conversation. Matt Davis is ready to have that conversation. See how much you can save. Call 919-779-8277, or you can go to insuregarner.com. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. I know with all the rain that we've been getting, I've been sneezing like crazy because that's what always happens after we get a bunch of rain. We also know this is prime mosquito time. Get the treatments so that you're not getting swarmed with mosquitoes like I did when I was in Morehead City. I went out outside when I was trying to troubleshoot your tech issues.
Mm-hmm.
I went, in the middle of the night next to the sound. Dude, the mosquitoes came after me. You don't need that in your house.
No.
So contact Mosquito Authority. And
my gosh,
with the summer, roaches coming in the house, all that kind of stuff. Bugsbite.com is a website you can bundle and save with Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Joe's got his new row back.
The Garden State.
Is everything legal in that polo?
Everything's legal in New Jersey. Let's go.
Go to rowback.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. You can get polos like that. Yeah, take this home today. I got the, speaking of all basketball and the success initiatives,
AV cart.
Got the AV cart. You can do that as well. They got shorts. They got pants. They got all that at Rowback. So head on over to rowback.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. Everything is legal in New Jersey except pumping your own gas. I learned that the hard way. I was scolded the last time I drove through New Jersey and I tried to pump my own gas.
It's a different experience.
From blind lemon jello, everything's legal in New Jersey if you know a guy.
It's fair. I got a guy.
Wasn't there somebody in the news who recently got popped for pumping their own gas?
For real?
I think so. I'm gonna have to go look that up. I might look that up during one of our OG Sports phone calls. So hit up the OG Sports phone 919-444-2211. That's not the college football playoff format.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, this is from an 864.
I had a little thought about the discourse around the Hurricanes. You know, being a Clemson grad, I noticed a lot of parallels between the modern Hurricanes and Clemson and around 2015, right before we got to the national championship and then won a couple. We never got the benefit of the doubt, and it left this massive chip on our shoulder. And I see it a ton with the Hurricanes. I mean, TNT doesn't actually do that bad of a job. I've really not noticed it. It's just the wrestling heads at ESPN that really don't want Raleigh going on versus the media market and easy selling point of Ovechkin. But I think that will change, and I think it's already starting to change ever so slightly, but it is frustrating to watch.
Yeah, it's appreciate the call. I think it is frustrating to watch. Is the perception going to change? Well, they're going to be left with no choice but to change the perception if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals again. But of course, the talking point then will be, well, they haven't won a game in the Eastern Conference Finals under Rod Brindamore. Remember the sweep that wasn't a sweep from the last time.
Yeah, and the true comp for the Hurricanes is actually the New York Yankees.
Okay.
They spend to the cap. They're there every year.
Mhm.
They're in it every year. They're more suited for the course of the 82 game schedule rather than the postseason. But their success in the postseason has been, while somewhat consistent to win one round or two, they've been short of the ultimate success. And part of the Yankees' problem is starting pitching.
Yeah.
And the parallel to starting pitching, of course, in hockey is goaltending. And the big problem for the Hurricanes had been goaltending. And now we'll see. Freddie has been by far the single best goalie in the postseason. It's not even really close.
No, it's not.
To be perfectly honest with you. I am sort of sad that Toronto will not get to see Freddie and that we won't get to see Freddie in Toronto. That is something that I think would have been a fascinating dynamic.
It would have been, but
I-
in a way,
It would have been fascinating.
it would have been fascinating. And I'm with you as it relates to Toronto, that for our purposes, Toronto would have been a win.
I was cheering for Toronto. I don't even have a ticket on Toronto.
No.
I just wanted those YouTube numbers, those beautiful
But you do have a ticket.
YouTube numbers. Yeah,
This
this
is the
this
ticket.
actual ticket.
This is the
that would have
ticket.
replicated State being in the Final Four for the first time since 1983.
Easily.
And I had tweeted yesterday, like, oh my God, I'm only 2 weeks into my Toronto fandom, and I don't know how these people do it. I'm exhausted because they really do lead this tortured existence. I want you to try to understand something.
What? Did you watch that last night?
I did. I want you to try to understand something, though. They're an original six franchise.
Yeah.
An original six franchise.
Yeah.
Okay. They've won the cup 13 times. The last time they won the cup was 1967. The last time they've been to the cup final was 1967. There were 12 teams in the NHL the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Ipso facto, that means 12 of their 13 cups have come when there was only 6 teams in the NHL.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, this is a tortured existence.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Cubs because they're not this lovable loser. It's a lot like, and it's not even really the Red Sox where you have this heartbreak of losing in the big moments of 75 and 86.
They're not even in the big moments.
They don't get to the big moments.
No.
But they also usually don't suck. And that's got to be what's the most frustrating part of being like this year in NC State basketball, right? Or even other years where you're like, oh, they just suck.
They just suck.
Right? And you move it along.
I
Like,
remember this past basketball season. I said they suck, and people got mad at me. And at the end of it, they're like, "Okay, you were
Okay,
right."
fine. We'll
And
just
then
move it on.
sometimes it's just bad.
The Leafs consistently find a way to be good.
And then this.
To have these talent, Amat Sundin, Cujo, Brian McCabe. They've always kind of sort of had somebody
They got
get
dudes
it done.
on this
and
team.
on this team, they got dudes on dudes. And to your point now, you got to be careful.
Well, because Mitch Marner might be a Cane for all we know.
The Canes are going to go after Mitch Marner this offseason.
I know they are.
Okay?
I know, but
so just be a little bit careful. Don't be motherfucking the Leafs top talent.
I'm not, because I'm actually going to bring this all home. I'm going to bring this all home. Okay.
Joe, 67, buddy.
No, I get it.
Joe, I wasn't alive. Joe, I turned 50 this year. I wasn't alive.
I'm going to bring this all home when it comes to Toronto and this area. Typically I've said that Lenovo Center for basketball, there's no sound like it when the crowd realizes, oh no, here we go again. The butts get tight.
The tight.
As Bomani likes to call it, the lemon booty.
Mm-hmm.
Butts are clenched. Okay. And it's that loud sucking noise that you hear inside Lenovo Center during a basketball game when like they're up 12 on Carolina and all of a sudden you're like, here we go again.
England in soccer.
Right.
England in soccer.
So last night I was coming through the television, the same exact vibe, which is why, to bring it back to Mitch Marner, this is the sell to any one of these guys, especially coming from Toronto. And Freddie could probably do you a favor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Mitch Marner, you're looking at the Miko thing and you go, oh, well, they don't have a Neiman Marcus. They don't have a, they don't have.
I can't buy Cuban cigars.
Man, I can't. There's no Michelin Man rated restaurants around here. I think there is. I can't remember. Anyway, well, what am I gonna do in Raleigh? What's there to do in Raleigh? I can tell you another thing that's not in Raleigh. That bullshit. Because to your point about the dynamics with Freddie and Toronto, he lived that shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I almost didn't want, as much as I wanted for the content and YouTube, for it to be to Toronto. I actually trust the Canes against that Florida team than I would Toronto and that whole dynamic with Freddie.
I trusted the Canes against Florida sans Marshawn.
With Marshawn?
I don't want
all right,
to see
fair
that
point.
guy.
Fair
he
point.
He is the Phantom Menace.
Fair point. But
at last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
Buddy, I'm
telling you, man.
It is.
You don't want to see that guy.
Let's go to a 617. 617.
Hey guys, this is Al. Yes, I kept the 617 area code. Just wanted to give you guys props as we finally get back from Texas and game 4, where while Ghost was scoring that first goal, I was watching my youngest nephew tell his preschool graduating class that he wanted to be a miner when he grew up so that he could be rich. I just wanted to tell you guys that I appreciate the coverage that you guys all provided, having Luke and Mike on to just kind of give us a flavor of the game of what's going on. It's a valuable service for those of us that aren't able to watch all of it, who are passionate fans, but, family events carry us away to where we can't see everything about it. So just wanted to give you guys some props and say thank you for that. And now we're back, and let's hope we wrap this up in 5 tonight. Go Canes.
I appreciate the call, Al. That's look, my goal with all these things is to do things a little bit different. It can get really easy to get caught up in the samey stuff. So hopefully that's coming through, and clearly that's coming through for you. Hopefully it's coming through for other people as we continue to do the After Dark and everything else. How many Bill Belichick phone calls do you want to take?
Before we do that, I got to show you this. This looks so good from our friends over at Color Graphic.
Oh boy, what is this?
So if you're not watching on the YouTube, this is an AI beer cave with our legit OG light display. Positive vibes only. It's got a little cigar wrapper type feel to it.
It does have a bit of a cigar wrapper.
He's got our flag there in the middle.
Yep.
Glenn, this is tremendous.
That's fantastic, Glenn.
Tremendous.
That is fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to the OG light hitting the
champagne
shelves.
Of podcasts. How many things can we rip off in one possible setting?
No.
Love it. That looks so good. I'm ready.
Anyway, actually, before we take Bill Belichick calls, let's go through this from Rob. I know yesterday you guys talked with someone about state basketball. I agree with him that state will finish 7th or 8th in the ACC in basketball this year. This actually ties into a phone call from a 919. That was Matt Norlander from CBS.
Hi guys, Matt Sequay. Just listening to, I haven't watched the video yet. I'm about to watch the video of the Norlander interview. And I certainly appreciate Giglio's audible, not frustration, but I guess maybe astonishment, something like that, regarding Norlander's assessment of the Wolfpack. But in what fucking world did UVA have a better offseason than State? And how should they feel any better about their coaching hire versus NC State? What the fuck is he talking about? I mean, I appreciate y'all's perspective. I think y'all push back appropriately. And I think you're right that if State's not an NCAA tournament team next year, whatever that means, they have to be a tournament team in order for the fan base to feel like it was a success. If that means 7th, fine. That means 4th, fine. I seriously doubt that the floor for them is any lower than 7th. I think they'll probably finish between 4 and 6. 4 and 6. And we'll see. Anyways, was not impressed with Norlander today. He usually is pretty good. I don't think he was prepared to discuss NC State. I'm serious. That was not an intelligent conversation.
Yeah, and I think some of my pushback was this right here. Sometimes you just got to go to the wiki page.
Yeah.
Chattanooga, second, first, second. Now, the first year at LSU, he was 9th, 8 and 10. That was a dog shit LSU team that he had to make strong ass offers to,
right,
to get to. Look at the very next year: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 1st. Like, Will Wade is a accomplished coach who's won at different stops, who's like a coachy coach
entering into an ACC
that doesn't have coaches,
does not have Hall of Fame coaches up and down the freaking up and down the list.
The guy at Stanford is a coachy coach. The guy at Virginia Tech is a coachy coach. The rest of this league, man, there ain't a lot of them out running around out there.
I would say John Shire is a coachy coach too.
Not yet, man.
He's getting there.
He's getting there.
He's got the foundation for it. But to your point,
he does. We can talk more about Duke, which we haven't done yet. Because people are starting to make that mistake already about Duke.
In what sense?
Even though they will have wolf blood on their team next year, people are already making that mistake about Duke.
The mistake being?
And I'm saying it right now, you mark it, you save it, you clip it.
Okay.
Not all 5 stars are created equal.
Oh, okay.
I told you in January of 24 who Cooper Flagg was going to be, and he delivered. And I told Duke fans in January of 24, this is not the droid you're looking for. This team in 24 doesn't matter. It's what happens in 25 with Cooper Flagg, because he is that type of difference maker. The Boozer twins are just 5-star guys.
Yeah.
The one is better than the other. They're just 5-star guys. They're not coming in here to be Cooper Flagg.
No.
They're not coming in here to be even RJ Barrett.
You don't think they know that out in Durham?
I don't know if everyone's square.
No.
That Duke is not going to be the machine that they were this year.
Okay, are you talking about Duke knowing this or the media knowing this?
Both. I think John knows what's on his team.
John knows what's on his team.
I don't think Duke fans, and I don't think the people who cover Duke, I'm telling you, man, because you get lulled into it and you forget it.
That's fair.
Because you think, well, Tatum wasn't this at first either. Well, no. By the end of it, Tatum was running shit.
I will simply say that I've done this long enough to know that I've done this long enough now, and I've seen, all sorts of permutations of fandom, but I do think we've entered into an era where Duke basketball fans are actually the most pragmatic of the bunch.
They have been so far.
Just saying.
Now you got to stomach. You have to stomach the last 3 years and think.
I get that.
I'm just saying they could be like a 3 or a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament next year. Remember, even Jay Will's first team that would go on to win a championship and be the best team in the country his 3rd year. That first year was a little bit of an adjustment.
All right, this is from Justin on the YouTube comments. Carolina boy living in Florida. Should I go to Jacksonville for the beginning of history repeating itself? Is it worth it to sit in early September Florida heat? Buddy, it ain't the heat. It's the humidity. It is gross that time of the year for this historic Panthers team.
Do it.
All right. So, do you want to talk about Bill Belichick some more?
Sure. It's only 3.
All right.
It's fine.
We'll close out.
Oh, is it Cam Newton? Or are we just doing the calls?
I can pull up the Cam Newton during one of these calls. Let's start.
I
Let's start with
thought
the call.
the Cam was delicious.
It was pretty good. Here's a call from a 704.
Hey guys, I'm the guy that left the message that you played on the Pablo Torre show about what if UNC gave Mac Brown the $20 million. Hey, Giglio, I agree with your assessment of my take. I agree with what the results were and what the problems were with Mac Brown. All I'm saying is, if this is the result of bringing in Bill Belichick, the genius of football, and this is what we're getting, this disaster coming down the pipeline, please, by all means, give me back my triangle good. And I wish the both of you a wonderful time covering this story. An excellent story, both as journalists, and I imagine just underneath the surface of it all is state fans that you can't really talk about in a professional media type of way. There's got to be a part of you that kind of likes it from the NC State perspective, and I appreciate how professional you keep it. And I'm going to nod at you and say, hey man, y'all should enjoy it a little bit as State fans, because if the shoe was on the other foot, UNC fans would be doing the same thing. So that's all. Y'all have a great day. Keep up the good work. I love your show.
I do like that follow-up call, but I'll say this.
I don't know how to take the whole state thing,
The
though.
PR thing, yes, has been a disaster.
Yeah.
But so far, like, the whole thing isn't a disaster. They haven't even played a game yet.
Right.
And I go back to the piece of paper, which is going to be in the OG Hall of Fame.
Should we frame it?
That schedule, man. And the thing I've also been consistent about, which the other part of this piece of paper has the rankings of their defense there in green.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is going to be much better next year. I promise you. It's not going to be one of those years where Baylor, with their fourth string quarterback, with a safety playing quarterback, runs for 700 yards on Bill Belichick. I promise you that's not happening.
I don't know.
I promise you
They've
that's
tried
not
all
happening.
sorts of iterations. Joe,
I promise you
I'm
that's not
simply
happening.
saying they have attempted all sorts of iterations of defensive guys coming in, and the best
But
they've
it's
ever
usually
had.
Gene Chizik.
No, but Gene Chizik is like the best one they've had, and it was a bend don't break.
Let's do it again. We'll break away from Cooper Price, whatever, and rename it.
I think it was, I want to say it was Alex Kirshner. I was listening to Split Zone Duo. I want to say it was Split Zone Duo. And they were talking about the classic mistake that NFL guys make when they come to college. And they're like, we're just going to get a bunch of big dudes.
Right.
And then we're going to develop them. I don't know if that's going to necessarily work out.
I think those numbers, when you say disaster, I just think they're going to be 8-4 next year.
Okay.
I think they're going to be 8-4. They're probably not going to win one of the games you want them to win. And they're probably not going to, just like Mac, you're probably not going to lose a game you thought you were going to lose too.
Yeah.
So I do think I don't think it has to be this beautiful disaster. PR wise, it has been. Football wise, I don't think it has to be that. It can just be, did you really fork over all that money to go 8-4 again?
Is this Cam Newton take going to be problematic? I have not seen it yet.
Oh, it's amazing.
All right.
It's amazing.
I'm going to be the one that say, hate me, despise me, but somebody got to keep it real, man. I find it extremely interesting for a person who've always led with this. Do not be a distraction. We talking more.
Is the whole issue that I'm saying the same things Cam Newton's saying, but I'm not wearing a custom Braves?
Plus, don't forget he got cut because he wouldn't get the COVID test.
There was that.
And he was a quote unquote
distraction. I get
but
all that
you
stuff.
gotta let him cook, man.
No,
Come
I know. But right off the bat, I'm already bothered because I'm like, okay,
Oh, no,
Cam,
it
I've been
gets
saying
better.
this.
It gets better.
Okay.
More about Jordan Hudson than talking about who's our starting quarterback. You can't name me 3 players on North Carolina's roster right now besides Jordan Hudson. In the NFL locker room, man, we'll laugh at this. Hey, Bill, hey, what you got going on? Now, you having that same situation with a 16-year-old that you're trying to recruit, and then you got to talk to his mama? This ain't a good look. As a teenager, can I compartmentalize this person as being my coach and take heed to what he's saying and be able to not throw that back at him and say, man, what you know, coach? You got girl problems just like me. Huh?
Say we come out first game out the gate, they lose. Will this be the headline of the story? The Jordan Hudson effect?
Of course it is.
And do you think this will affect the Bill Belichick legacy? I'm going to say his name before her legacy. You give me a word. Bill Belichick.
The greatest coach of all time.
Now, think of now. Bill Belichick.
A coach that's just like me and you.
So it could be 2 days.
New England, man, he's the greatest coach. In North Carolina, that's Wild Bill right there. Boot Bill. That's Wild Bill. Boot knocking Bill. Howdy. When I was in New England, there was a young lady by the name of Linda Holiday. That was his girlfriend then. She wasn't half bad. I was like, okay, Bill. And then all of a sudden, Bill Belichick turned into a city boy.
He ain't want no more classic cars. Huh?
He was outside.
He was a player from the Himalaya.
You would assume, being any type of sports fan, talking about a Jordan in the Carolinas alone, on the Eastern Hemisphere alone, in Chapel Hill, it was only one Jordan that we will be referring to. Michael Jordan. Jordan Hudson has shimmied her way into relevance. And now, instead of just saying the word Jordan in Chapel Hill.
You gotta say Jordan who?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
The zeal with which he delivered that soliloquy is a man who was in their locker room during COVID and was basically told to shut up and dribble. And for him to be able to have that moment of schadenfreude, I could not be happier for Cameron Jarrell.
Oh, man. From Davis, is it a dead period that the only thing to talk about is Jordan Hudson? And Davis, longtime listener, I get it. And I appreciate you. We'll always have Brooklyn. I'm going to go back to what the Carolina caller just said. If the shoe was on the other foot, you telling me you're not talking about it every day? Come on now. So this business of, no, absolutely not. And you know why I'm not going to stop talking about it? Because I got a bunch of freaking OG sports phone calls about it. You know why I'm not going to stop talking about it? Because every time I put her face on a YouTube thumbnail, guess what? People click on it. Right now, the two top hits for anything that we do are Carolina Hurricanes related and Bill Belichick related. So what do you think I'm going to infer from this? Brian Windhorst had a really good conversation with the press box. I know this is the second time I've referred to this interview, but he had a really good pushback on people who complain at ESPN about why do you always talk about the Lakers? Why do you always talk about the Golden State Warriors? Why? And Windhorst is like, well, all the people who are complaining about the amount of time being spent on the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors are all these analytics guys, right? Like, oh, you got to get into the numbers, and I'm going to show you why this team is super efficient and really great. And he says, you don't think the people in Bristol have their analytics? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They're doing their own analytics based on what you want to talk about or what the audience says they want to talk to, be hearing. This is one of them. To that end, let's go back to the sports phone.
Yeah, I'm calling from Danville, Giglio. Yeah, if you ever want to meet up at the casino, I'd meet you there about less than 15 minutes from there. I bet you didn't think you'd get a call from somewhere like that. Get it? Bet. Yeah, anyway, I'd meet you there. Unfortunately, I believe I may be getting laid off from my job, so unfortunately I wouldn't be able to make any gambles with you. I could just sit back and maybe, you could buy me a alcoholic beverage would be okay, since I may be unemployed. Anyway, I was kind of curious. You was wondering if you think maybe while Miss Jordan is at a Carolina football game this year, I'm sure she'll be sitting in the suites. Do you think it's possible she may be like Tepper and possibly throw a alcoholic beverage onto someone into the crowd? And also you guys, and I noticed also with Belichick and his interviews he does, that he really doesn't support the Carolina gear that he does coach for. And if he is having a problem to get something with Carolina on it, Johnny T-shirt is a big sponsor for North Carolina, which is on Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. And he's more than welcome to use my 10% off. I am an IC member. 10% would help me since I may be unemployed, getting laid off here soon. Enjoy the show, folks. Bye-bye.
Let's get our guy a job here now.
I know.
Come on.
Hey,
let's not gamble.
Yeah, let's not
we'll
do
take
that.
a break.
Let's do that. And we'll be more than happy to buy you a beer, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we might even send you a case of OG Light.
Ooh,
right?
I like that.
Why not?
We still haven't figured out interstate commerce laws or even access issues.
But we can just deliver him a case of that if we need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, if you feel like you're about to get
Your
laid
dad
off.
mailed me some rum. Oh,
Yeah,
how
you
he
could do
pulled
it.
that off. You could do that.
You could do that. You know who I know probably knows the answer to this? Ken.
Yeah.
Ken probably has all the answers when it comes to the shipping of those types of things. But we don't need to because it's not like Danville's that far from here, right?
No, it's not.
Okay. Let's.
Yeah, you're like Dorn.
Do we want to do more?
We've got more.
Let's do
Smoke
more.
him if you got
Smoke
him.
him if you just want to clear out the chamber. Let's clear out the chamber. Let's just get. I mean, because they've been backing up. All right, let's what else we got here.
Ovies was trying to head off anyone who thinks that you guys might have been overreacting to how strange this Belichick situation is and how poorly it seems to be going so far. And by the way, I hate that we're even talking about this, given the Canes are in the midst of what they're doing, and I do not want to think about Carolina football for any additional weeks out of the year than I already have to. But as an alum, I just want to say, if anything, you guys are really underselling this. This is incredibly cringeworthy. Every single thing related to him at this point is, I close my eyes and can't even look and don't want to hear what was said or what his body language is, because I just think this is deeply embarrassing. And I've been a Bubba Cunningham supporter and backer through pretty much every big decision that's been made. And I'm afraid that this is going to end up being what he's remembered for. I think this Belichick thing is going to crash and burn so bad that it's going to set them back in that regard, and they're going to have years and years trying to climb out of whatever the hell this is, because this needs to end soon.
Nah, man. You're getting a season of this. Appreciate the call, though. Let's go to another 919.
What's up, guys? I just listened to your Monday episode, listened to your interview with Pablo Torre, and I've got to say, as an NC State fan, I am absolutely eating up all of this news with Bill Belichick. Because, look, I know that if we get to September and Carolina comes out and they're winning games, that all of this stuff will just be stuff that gets forgotten about. But we've got to make it to September 1st, which at this point seems like a dubious proposition. And I'm here enjoying every single story about this, that the prim and proper wine and cheese, buttoned up, polished UNC is having to deal with this borderline Jerry Springer tier bullshit from Bill Belichick. It's amazing. I hope it continues. Either way, I'm tuned in, listening to the circus. Have enjoyed the coverage, guys. Keep it up. Take care.
I'll go back to my original thought too when Belichick was hired. We've seen this before somewhere. Big workout for Wikipedia today. That's Bill Walsh's page.
Yeah.
92, comes back to college out of the blue. Goes back. Now, he had been at college before, so he had an experience. He also got out of the NFL because he was tired of it. He could have won about 3 or 4 more Super Bowls.
Sure.
Goddamn, I wish he did, because we wouldn't have to have this conversation about Bill Belichick. But he decided to go back to Stanford. You see that 10-3, 6-2 back in the old Pac-8, I think it was at the time. Then it was 4-7, 3-7-1, and I've had enough.
See ya.
I've had enough. Tapping out. Tapping out.
That might be the case after 1 year. All right, one more Bill Belichick call, and then we'll end on a high note.
Hey, guys. This message is for the State fan who is just so embarrassed by what's happening in Chapel Hill. I know he's probably one of the same fans that was really concerned, about the academic integrity of the classes in Chapel Hill. That's what his concern is. He's just worried about the way it's making the state, not the University of North Carolina, but the state of North Carolina look. I want to apologize to him. I want to apologize to him for his genuine concern for the state of North Carolina. I mean, man, I bet he just wants every athlete that comes to North Carolina to have the greatest possible experience. And he's worried. He's worried about the athletes in Chapel Hill. I'm sorry. From a Carolina fan to you, I'm sorry. Get the fuck out of here.
I love this area. Why would you want to do this anywhere else?
Curse or don't. This is a great point, though.
Very good point. Very good point. Okay. Let me see here. I have to go through where are the text messages. I want to here it is. Here it is. We'll close on this. This is from a 919. It's from the NC State moderator.
Congratulations.
My wife just gave birth to our baby boy. Congratulations. Obviously, the name of the child is NC State Moderator Jr. I will hold my child for the first time with a dark reality setting in. Teabagging has been deemed unsportsmanlike by Call of Duty, and you will get banned for doing it. My son is one of the first of his generation that will not be able to know the satisfaction of crouching in rapid succession over your opponent's dead avatar. What? You can sit around and tell your grandkids, you know, back in the day when I played Halo 2 online or Halo 3, after I would win a match in Slayer, I would teabag, crouch repeatedly on top of an opponent. Is that a real thing? You can't do that in Call of Duty anymore? What kind of world is this? How soft have we gotten where you cannot take your digital representation and just simply crouch up and down on the avatar? Brutal. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's edition. We'll be back.
Full day.
We've had a full day. We'll be back for the After Dark tonight. Hopefully the Canes will wrap this thing up. And we got a weekend off. That'd be nice. I mean, not that we can't party for Game 6. Well, actually, we can't. I mean, honestly,
we'd have to.
Society is as soft as NC State moderators' bottoms right now. Yeah. They're kind of runny right now after in a newborn status. Yeah, well, here's the thing about Saturday. We can't do Saturday because Junior Canes tryouts.
I was going to say, let me guess. You have some nonsense involved.
Junior Canes tryouts that afternoon. Yeah. Making it a pain in the ass.
Let me guess.
So we'll just save it for the conference finals. Right?
Perfect.
Right? Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. We'll see you later on YouTube for OG After Dark here from Eford Studios. Big thanks to the Butcher's Market. We'll see you later.